You're listening to ThunderQuack Podcast Network.
Hello there, and welcome back to Forced Perspectives. I'm your host, Michael Cohen, and joining me, as always, is the bead to my foe, Joe Hogan.
I'm not doing that thing again.
Doing it? You're not doing it?
I'll do the Jabba.
You did it.
We're there.
This is part 2 of our conversation about EU moments that we would like to see brought into the new canon. If you missed part 1, go back, listen to the previous episode, because otherwise you'll be lost, just hopelessly lost. But we're gonna get into it. So we're talking about different things from old canon or EU projects, long forgotten, maybe stuff that was never even canon to begin with, that we would like to see brought into the new stuff, or maybe used in a different format or what have you, just adapted in some way. Stuff that, like, sort of the hidden treasures that we think are worth resurrecting. So, Joe, what is your next one? What else have you got?
All right. Do you want my really silly, far-fetched one, or do you want my I think this is probably less of a pipe dream one?
Let's save the silly, far-fetched one for the last one. So
okay.
let's hear what you got.
You're gonna be like, this is the more realistic one. So, all right, hear me out on this one being more realistic. Let's say you don't get what you were hoping for Kenobi Season 2. I probably should have brought it up after you brought up Kenobi Season 2, but I wanted to hold on for a little while. Let's say you don't get what you want to get. I would love to bring back Starkiller without Starkiller insane powers. I don't care about the powers, but Vader having a secret apprentice who is so desperate to please Darth Vader, he wants to kill Obi-Wan. And it doesn't have to be Sam Witwer. It could be like young guy, whatever. But Vader now has this secret castle on Mustafar. Palpatine probably doesn't go there that frequently. I don't think it's that out of the ordinary that Vader just happens to have a little secret apprentice that he's been training there. I don't think it's that out of the that far fetched of an idea. So the apprentice is aware, or at least moderately aware, of the events of Kenobi. He realizes that Reva had failed him. He realizes that Vader's pissed off and wants Kenobi. Emperor commanded him not to do anything about it, so he's just kind of has to deal with it. Starkiller overhears this, is aware of this, and Vader sends him on a stealth mission or whatever to Tatooine, right? Or whatever, doesn't matter. Here's something about Obi-Wan, and now all of a sudden, oh my god, I can make Darth Vader happy by finding and killing Obi-Wan. I'm gonna go rogue. I'm gonna disobey my orders, and then Starkiller is the antagonist of Season 2 of Obi-Wan, and starts to almost like a Rom Coda thing where maybe he doesn't hurt Obi-Wan or whatever, but finds himself where he's in a position where he has to trust him, and then suddenly becomes friends with him by the end of the season or whatever. Finds maybe his love interest, I don't know, but I feel like there's enough interesting stuff there that it could make for a pretty cool Season 2 of Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the one thing that I would say to that is that it ends up I think that you shift the focus away from Obi-Wan a lot by bringing in Starkiller, because I think that would sort of steal the show a little bit. But I like the idea of it. I do really like the idea that reintroduce Starkiller, and it would be Sam Witwer in live action, being that he is also Darth Maul in the animated stuff, and that he takes on, because it's just like all of these Sith have one thing in common, and it's that they just hate Obi-Wan Kenobi. But they love him. It's actually secretly that they want to kiss him. But
Don't we all? We're
yeah,
not all of
well,
us are so secret about it, but
well, that's the thing, right? That's the difference between good and evil. A good guy just acknowledges that they want to kiss Obi-Wan Kenobi, but a bad guy denies that they want to kiss Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yep.
And that's the line. I don't want to,
That's
deal
it.
in any absolutes here. But I think it's a good guidepost. I think it's a good metric to measure
Sure.
against, right? It's like the thing of like, I can't trust anybody who doesn't, like dogs, right?
Right.
It's just like it's an indicator of other things, right? It's not the be all end all, but it is definitely like a warning sign. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that it would be really cool to see Vader have another apprentice. I wonder if like doing like a Mara Jade thing would almost be a better route to go to bring that character back into canon.
Okay.
But that's also like, I feel like Mara Jade would be so similar, like having another female dark Jedi would be really similar to Reva, right? So
yeah, that's the thing that I'm worried about, is I wouldn't want it to be too similar to everything that happened in season 1, which is why, I mean, maybe even not even becoming friend. You could also go the alternate route where he just leans into the dark side and becomes like, he gets so hurt fighting Obi-Wan that now he becomes that Starkiller, like dark side alternate story version of the character, because everybody loves that Sith Hunter armor, right? Like
yeah.
that like Bausch mask.
You know what I would do is I would shift it away from, because if you bring back Starkiller, I want Starkiller to be the central focus of the story, right? I don't want him to be competing with Obi-Wan, and I don't want Obi-Wan to be competing with him. So I think what I would do to shift what you just sort of proposed, and I'm just coming up with this because I just brought up Reva, is that like that character's out there and she's a loose thread, right?
Okay.
We don't really know where she goes and where she ends up. So wouldn't it be an interesting story if that what happens in Obi-Wan happens, and then Vader's like, I can't rely on the Inquisitorius, obviously. So I'm going to go find myself an apprentice. And so he goes and he finds himself an apprentice, and he starts like training this apprentice. And it's one of the because there's like all the people like frozen in amber or whatever inside the Fortress Inquisitorius, right? Like Obi-Wan sees one, and we get implications of that stuff in Fallen Order as well, right? And he goes and he like unthaws one of these younglings, and he's like, you're going to be my new apprentice. And he starts molding this kid. And so that's kind of where we start the story, right? Like that's sort of like our cold open of the first episode. And then we flash forward a few years later, and this is like after Fallen Order. So the Inquisitorius has been destroyed, right? Like we can kind of like imply a little bit that like after Fallen Order, it was kind of considered a failed project, even though the Grand Inquisitor and a few of the Inquisitors are still around come Star Wars Rebels, right? That it's like Vader has obviously like given up on them. Like he's they're only around because Palpatine still wants them around, sort of thing. And he's got his apprentice out there, and you start to get a little bit of like that Reva is out there and she's like fighting against the Empire and doing her thing. And so he sends out his apprentice, he sends out Starkiller to hunt her down. So then you still have the connection to Obi-Wan, because he's been told that he can't do anything about Obi-Wan, right? Palpatine is like, this obsession with Obi-Wan is done. I don't want any more of it, right? But like he can keep that fire burning by being like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with Obi-Wan. This has to do with a failure of the Inquisitorius, which I like, and like I would love to see a scene between Vader and Palpatine where Vader is like, I warned you that it was a bad idea. And you insisted on these Inquisitors, and now they need to be dealt with. And I'm gonna deal with this rogue Inquisitor, and not telling Palpatine that like the way that he's dealing with it is with Starkiller, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
like he's like, I'm handling this personally, right? But he's not handling it personally. He kind of is, because he's like overseeing Starkiller. So it's like, so Vader's like a presence, this like looming threat, but never actually like involved. He's always kind of like at arm's length, because he wants Starkiller to do this. But then like Reva eventually has an influence on Starkiller and starts to turn that story, right? Like,
This
and
can't be Obi-Wan season 2 though, because like
no, it
now
wouldn't be
there's like
Obi-Wan
no
season 2.
Okay, I was gonna
No,
say, I was like, now there's no focus on Obi-Wan.
but that's what,
like at all. Okay,
yeah,
I
but that's
follow.
exactly my point, is that like
Okay,
this story is about Starkiller,
okay.
right? It's not about Obi-Wan. Like I don't want the story to be about Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
I want Obi-Wan's story to be about Obi-Wan. I don't want his story pulling focus from Starkiller's or vice versa, right? If you're gonna bring back Starkiller, he's got to have his own thing.
Did you feel that Reva took too much focus from Obi-Wan or no?
No, not at all, because she played a role and a purpose in that story, and she fit into Obi-Wan Kenobi's story, right? Because the purpose of Reva in that story is a second chance for Obi-Wan to do what he should have done with Anakin, right? For him to like at the end of the series to be like, I'm not going to fight you at all. Like you can keep fighting if you need to, but I refuse to fight. I'm done fighting people like you. You deserve my pity, not my anger, right? And so like, yeah, like the like his change in attitude towards Reva towards the end of the season is the thing that eventually saves her, right? Like it's like she's like, am I lost or whatever? He's like, no, like the fact that you even asked the question means that you're not, right? So yeah, like that was important for Obi-Wan. Like her existence in that story is there because they could have just had the Inquisitors and he could have just defeated one of them. But Reva being in it is there to give Obi-Wan an opportunity, and also like to show him that like he wasn't wrong with Anakin, to give him another chance, or to give him multiple chances really, and be like, because he does at the end of Obi-Wan, he gives him one last chance. He's like, we don't have to do this. And Vader is like, I absolutely do need to. It's like, this isn't about I'm not your failure, right? He's like, I killed Anakin Skywalker. I'm Darth Vader. This was my choice, and I live with that choice. And it's not like, don't. I mean, like the subtext there is Anakin being like, "Don't infantilize me that way," right? Like he's still mad at Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan, in that moment of like, "I forgive you," is like, you're still treating me like I'm your student, and I'm not. I'm more powerful than you, right? That's the Anakin Skywalker thought process, right? But then with Reva, it's like, it's very much like there's a lesson to be learned here. And when she's ready to learn it, she does, right? And she brings Luke back and all of that. So I like that's it like that's to show, it's to show Obi-Wan that there is still hope. There is still hope for Anakin, even though like in the original trilogy he's like, I don't know, like to Luke, right? Because Luke's like, but what if? It's like, no, I don't think so. But there is like that just that bit of it. There's just that little bit of it. It's also for Luke's benefit, because even if he's unconscious, I feel like somehow he understands, like there's just that little bit there. But yeah. So I don't know. I think that Reva is the perfect antagonist for that story, specifically because she doesn't pull focus. She gives us a lens to view Anakin through that we haven't previously gotten. I mean, we've got it on our own, but we actually get somebody's perspective on it, right? Of him killing younglings and all of that sort of thing, and what the effect of that is, and the trauma of that, and the real repercussions of his decisions in those moments. But then we also get this character who, because she is a foil for Anakin and Vader, it's a great opportunity for Obi-Wan to view that fall in it from a different perspective, and to give him a second chance, right? That's the whole point. That's the whole point. People want to be like, Obi-Wan's not a very good show. Obi-Wan's a very good show. It's a very, very well written, very good show.
Sorry, what was that? What do they say?
They say Obi-Wan not a good show, you guys. It's a dumb show. It's so dumb. I don't like Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's disappointing. I don't know how it's disappointing. It is a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's so sad the whole time. Yeah. I think he has a really, really, really good, organic, justifiable reason for that. It's called the 3 movies that you guys really like. Anyways, when people complain about the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, I just have zero patience for it because I'm just like, I don't know what you guys are looking for. It looks like a TV show. It is a TV show. You guys, it's a TV show. Oh, but it looks like a TV show. I wish it didn't look like a TV show. So what you're saying is you want it to be a movie. So, no. Well, then I don't know what you're saying. Because I would rather have 6 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi than a 2-hour movie. Personally, and it introduced little Leia, and we got more of Owen Lars being a badass, and we got Beru Lars being a badass, and we got
Beru is awesome in that show.
Yeah, we got
so
all those new characters. We got like Kumail's character, Haja, and we got the Jedi Path, and we got our Quinlan and Koran name drops, and like, come on, like I don't know. That show leaves me wanting for nothing, honestly. Except a season 2, except more.
Yeah,
that's all. Like that's I walk away from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the only thing that I can say about it personally that is like that upsets me is that it is just 1 season. And like, just keep going. Just keep going. There are more stories to tell with this character. You already broke the rule. You did the hardest part already. He left Tatooine to go on an adventure. There's nothing to stop him from doing it again, guys. There's nothing to stop him. But you know what? Like, let me transition from that into something that I would love to see. I already gave you guys my pitch for Obi-Wan season 2, but let me just right here go for Obi-Wan season 3 is to just do the Obi-Wan Kenobi novel. It's a really good story.
Oh, it's awesome.
It's a really, really good story. And to have that one be the 3rd season and the end of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, I think would be perfect because it puts him in a position of I'm not leaving this place anymore until Luke is ready, right? And to have like Luke will have grown up a little bit, and then like I would tie the heck out of it into the Boba Fett series. The Tuskens that are in the Boba Fett series, that tribe would be the same one.
Oh, rad. Oh, dude.
Because then it would justify, right?
Home run.
Because it's the same region. It's the same region, right? So like geographically it makes sense. But then it's like, let's give a reason for why these Tuskens are just a little bit different from the rest of the Tuskens.
Oh, dude.
And why they show mercy to Boba Fett. And why
so good.
Because
God, that's so good.
What a beautiful full circle like restoration for Boba, that the Tuskens that rescued him and gave him a second chance only did that because Obi-Wan did it for them.
Oh man.
This character that like the last time that Boba saw Obi-Wan, his father was trying to, and I mean, I know Mason ends up killing Jango, but like Jango and Obi-Wan are like locked in a life or death battle that, you know, they both narrowly escape from multiple times, right? Like it's just back and forth. So yeah, like what a great way to tie all that together, to have the Tuskens in that story, because you've got sort of like the three aspects of that story. You've got the it's not Anchorhead, it's a different settlement, right? But you've got I can't remember the character's name. It's like on the tip of my tongue. But the woman, Annalise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so proud of myself for getting that. But you've got Annalise and like her general store and all of that, like that little settlement sort of thing. And then you've got the Tuskens, and then you've got Obi-Wan, right? Who's kind of in the middle of the two of them. And like adapt that story, make that the 3rd season, and give Obi-Wan a little, like, let's give Obi-Wan a love interest that he can actually like have some fun with. You know, like I think he's earned it. I think he deserves it. And I think that it would go a long way to telling a story, like letting people know that like the Jedi Order was wrong with that whole part of it. and like here, like let's give Obi-Wan an opportunity. And this is perfect because my season 2 would have all of the like Satine stuff, because that's what he's got to deal with in season 2, is he's got to unpack that part of it, right, in order for him to be resolved. And this is where I say there are more stories to tell with Obi-Wan. Where we leave him at the end of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and where we see him next in Star Wars Rebels with Darth Maul, he's not done yet. He has not worked through everything. He's definitely worked through the Anakin of it. He hasn't worked through the Maul and Satine stuff yet.
Yeah.
Right? Now that he's worked through Anakin, the most recent trauma, he needs to go back to the one before it, which is the trauma that was the reason why he allowed everything to happen with Anakin. Because Satine's murder at the hands of Maul, which he sees as his fault, we've talked about that before, he sees that as his fault, is why he allows Anakin and Padme to carry on. And like, no one can convince me of anything else. He saw that and he was like, you know what? I know what you're doing. I don't care, because I don't have the heart to tell you to stop doing the thing that I wish that I had the guts to do. Right. So he just turns a blind eye to it. He ignores all the warning signs and he just lets it go. He just lets it happen. He doesn't tell anybody else about it. He just pretends like he and Rex don't know. Right. Like he just like we see that in Clone Wars season 7. It is explicit, not implicit. It is right there on Front Street in that one interaction. Right. So yeah, like we need to go back. We need to unpack that. And I think that, like, you know, I that's a season 2. But if he unpacks that, he deals with it and he heals from it, then in season 3, he's ready to love again, right? Like he's ready to for a second chance at that part of his life. And then what do you know? There's an opportunity for a lineage there to continue in another story somehow. Huh. Funny how that works. 30 some odd years down the road, we can have another character exist that's maybe connected in some way. And you know what? It doesn't have to break anything in canon. I know Shadow of the Sith has it's Shadow of the Sith, right? Shadow of the Sith, but whatever it's called. The Ochi of Wurstun book. There is an implication in that story that Rey's grandmother was force sensitive in some way, or like connected to the force in some way. So there's still plenty of opportunity. And also we don't know anything about Miramir, her mother, Rey's mother. We don't know anything about her. And that's sort of like my key into it, is that like Dathan can continue to be Palpatine's son, whatever you want to look at that, whatever nonsense that is. But Miramir has like this just absolutely blank slate background.
Yeah.
I don't even think that she's got a surname, right? In canon as of right now. So yeah, but there's an implication like when from Miramir's perspective that like her mother, was it her mother or her grandma? I can't remember because it's been a while since I listened to that audiobook, and I only listened to the first half of it because I got tired of it. Somebody in her that taught her how to fly had like this sort of preternatural ability that you're reading it and you're like, okay, so they were using the force, right? So like there's an implication there in a retconny sort of way that I am totally fine with, that Palpatine's blood is not the only place that her ability came from, like that Rey comes by it naturally as well, you know, from her mother. That it's like a latent ability sort of thing. But anyways, it's opportunity. It's just perfect opportunity. If you're like, yeah, Miramir's mother is Annalise, right? Like if you did that, and it's like, yeah, Tatooine to Jakku is not a, you know, these are not stretches. It's like, well, you know, you move from one region to another because it's similar. So that is now a thing that I feel needs to happen, but because I've said it out loud, it can't, because they'll be like, they'll be like, we can't do that because that guy said it on that podcast that one time. But it's actually really easy because like you guys could just like hey, Lucasfilm, you could just like hire me.
Yeah.
Just give me a job. And I'll come in and I'll just break that story. Like I'll just
We'll
hang out
take
with
the
Deborah Chow.
podcast down for that for this episode.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. Hey, listen. Hey, Lucasfilm, you want to give me a job? I will burn it all. Like like everything. 16 years of podcasting, up in smoke. I without even a heartbeat, if it meant that I could go and like tell Star Wars stories with Lucasfilm. Are you kidding me? That's the whole point. That's what I'd rather be doing, you guys. That's why I'm here, because I can't do that. So this is the only recourse that I have, is to tell these stories and put them out on the internet. And then you guys go like on the Discord, right? ThunderQuack.com/Discord. Come hang out with us. But how many times on the Discord has like Tim or like Tim Dipple or Dan or somebody been like, I just listened to the episode and now I'm upset because they're not going to do that. And so that was a really good story. I'm like, yeah, I'm winning. I'm a better Star Wars than Star Wars, you guys.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's terrible. But like I said, I will give it all up for you, Lucasfilm, in a heartbeat. I will forsake everything.
Now everyone on the Discord knows you're only hanging out with them because you have to.
Yeah, it's as a necessity, right? I'm like, hey, listen. I think everybody is fully aware of my need for attention and validation because I talk about it a lot. I'm very aware of it, and I'm not ashamed of it. I probably should be. That is one thing that I should be ashamed of, is that need for validation. But I don't know. I'm the third kid. I'm the youngest, right? So I just attention me. Somebody attention me. I have ADHD, and the attention deficit isn't my ability to pay attention to things. My attention deficit is the amount of attention I'm getting. So that's why I have to talk for 45 minutes at a stretch about Star Wars, because people turn around and go, I like what you said. And I go, yes, I will continue. Good. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. You gave another one, and I just gave another one as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what do you got next?
I got one real silly one that is.
Let's get silly.
It's kind of even cheating, because it doesn't even necessarily need to be in an old expanded universe story, but like there's no reason it shouldn't or couldn't be. So here's what I'm thinking. We're not going into TV or movie territory. I want, and I think we're long overdue, a turn-based RPG of something like the Darkness trilogy. And you have, Luke is obviously your knight, Leia's your healer, Han's your thief, Chewie's your tank. You can gather all of like your party members because who's off on whatever mission, right? And I don't know why we haven't gotten this before with these characters. So you have an opportunity to tell a live action, quote unquote, live action story of Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, Lando being back together after Return of the Jedi, going off on whatever little self-contained crazy adventure. It can be as big or small as you want it to be. Probably the bigger the better. But if it's one self-contained adventure, like cool, whatever. Have them go off and do that. I think the Darkness alien bug guys are the perfect like cannon fodder enemy to kill throughout the entire game. And just like a turn-based JRPG. How do we not have a turn-based JRPG Star Wars game? I don't understand. I don't even care who makes it. It doesn't even need to be made by like, a JRPG studio. It could just be like, a Western RPG. I don't care. But like, it's crazy to me that we don't have this game yet. And I think it's the perfect, you can get people who sound like Han Solo. The guy who always does the Han Solo, like Lego Han Solo, is awesome. Yeah. All of the Lego Star Wars OT people are awesome. Get all of those people to voice Han, Luke, Leia, Lando. It's crazy to me that we don't have the story. And I was just thinking like, oh yeah, cannon fodder enemies, bug guys, perfect. You're not slicing stormtroopers at half, which some people have a problem with. I don't, but it doesn't have to be Imperial, whatever.
Yeah.
And just tell the story. And playing something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Remake, that game like is fine with characters splitting off on their own adventures, and because like of the leveling system, it's not like, well, you ignored Chewie for the whole game, so now he's just like really weak, and when you need him, he's gonna suck. No, like the leveling up is all happening simultaneously, and you should be using these these skill systems, and like each character gets points as everybody levels up, and you can make the character stronger by doing whatever cool new abilities that you want that character to unlock and get better at whatever. And like, I've always wanted this game, and it's crazy to me that we still don't have it, and I think this is like staring everyone in the face. And now that EA doesn't have the exclusive license anymore, I would love to have preferably a Japanese studio take a crack at a JRPG Star Wars game. I think that would be so awesome. Like, I want it so bad. But anyway, that's the loose idea for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down. The Darkness trilogy is actually one of my favorite EU stories. It's one of
really
the few things, that's up on my shelf. I love it.
Okay.
I love those 3 books. I think Troy Denning did a fantastic job. Troy Denning captures those characters so well. He's just really good at writing Han, especially, and that's to me is the trickiest one. I think it's actually really easy to write Luke. I think it's really easy to write Leia. But Han is a difficult. I mean, Harrison Ford is a difficult character, like difficult performances to capture, because I think like you can write the character, you put it down on paper, but Harrison Ford brings what Harrison Ford brings to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are very few instances where I feel novels have like nailed that, and I think like the Han that's in those, he's not in them a lot, but because it's kind of switching between a bunch of perspectives, but from what I remember, it's now been, I don't know, like 15 years. I read them when they were coming out. So however long it's been since they came out, like that's when I read them. So it's been a very long time. But I remember thinking while I was reading them, like this sounds like Han. This really feels like Han in a way that like a lot of the stuff during the New Jedi Order just didn't. And I mean, there's a big part of the New Jedi Order where it's like they just didn't know what to do with Han Solo. They had no idea what to do with Han Solo, so he's just kind of there a lot of the time.
He always just kind of felt like, well, I'm Leia's husband now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, yeah.
They did to him what they do to Videl in Dragon Ball.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, like he's really good in those books, and one of my favorite things in those books is that because like at the same time, like just before, actually, I think in between, because I think I think the first book had come out, maybe the first 2 books had come out, and I read them back to back, and then I was waiting for the third. I think I read the first one right before the second one came out, like it had been out a while.
Okay.
And then the second one came out like and I kind of grabbed it like right away and like went right into it, and then had to like wait to read the third one. And I think at some point in there, if not before, I was reading the Ryan Daly Han Solo stuff, the Han Solo Adventures, the stuff from 1978. And there's a scene at the beginning of one of them. I think it's the first book. I think it's at Star's End. In any case, it's at the beginning of one of the... No, I think it's the second book, which is Han Solo's Revenge, I think is the second one. And then Lost Legacy is the last one, I think, if I'm remembering right. In any case, it's at the beginning of the second book, because I think those two, the Blue Max and oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. He was one of my EU characters in the last episode. Well, 2 episodes ago, I guess. Those guys, I think they're in that opening scene. But there's a scene, it's like the cold open of the book, where Han and Chewie are on this planet with these ants, like these giant ants, like them, right? Like the old B movie Them. But they're like sentient, right? And Han has got this racket going where he's like they're bringing him like, I think like gemstones or something like that, because they don't understand money. right? Like
Okay.
they're not a civilized race, right?
Mm.
They're not spacefaring or whatever. They're not part of the galactic community. So they're like, I think they're paying him in like gemstones that they don't want, but that like he is like, these are super valuable. And he's got like like an old, like basically a projector that he's set up like a movie, like a drive-in movie theaters, or like an outdoor movie theater for these ants, for these giant like sentient ants. And something happens, either like the projector breaks down or like something happens on screen, or it's like a hologram or whatever, and like something happens that like all of a sudden they turn on him, like this thing that he's had going that's like super great, it all goes, ass up on him, as it does with Han, right? It's a very
Mhm.
like Han moment. And like he loses all of the gemstones and they almost kill him. Like he gets like swarmed with these things and they're like gonna take him down. But then like Chewie kind of like the Falcon sort of swoops in and Chewie like off of the landing ramp like kind of grabs him and pulls him up into the ship, and they just escape by the skin of their teeth, right? And it's this thing, and he's like, I thought I was really done for. Like, I thought I'd finally bitten off more than I could chew. Like, you saved my life again, sort of thing, to Chewie. And then they go off on their adventure. And it's sort of like, we don't talk about it ever again. It's just kind of a thing that happened. And then in the Dark Nest trilogy, it comes back because
Mm.
Troy Denning had read those books. And when they get there and they start realizing that they're dealing with the Joiner King and like all of these bugs, right? Han starts to have like PTSD about it. Like he starts freaking out about these bugs, and it's never fully explained in the book. But because of the fact that I had just by happenstance, serendipity, the will of the Force, been reading both of these at the same time, basically, I was like, that's a callback. That's 1000% a callback. And I think I looked it up or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it was like, it's meant to be a callback, that like he can't, like he really has like a prejudice against insectoid species because of that incident, because he was
Mm.
almost killed by these things. And it's like, it was one of those things. It's just stupid fun. Like that just makes me so happy that a connection like that is in a Star Wars book. It was like, these are like three of the first Star Wars books, and at the time I was reading those were literally like, because that's post New Jedi Order, right? It was
Mm.
like the first story post NJO, and it was like, this is like the newest thing, and they're communicating with each other in this way, like the continuity is like referencing it. And I was just like, it's so rad, it's so good. But there's a lot in those books that I really really liked, and I know that they're
Mm.
not particularly well loved. um
Yeah, I never hear anything good about those books.
I
Like, I
only
remember
ever hear
liking them.
people talk about them negatively. Only
Yeah.
ever hear people talk about them negatively.
Yeah, I remember liking them though. I thought they were cool.
But I really, really enjoyed them in a way that I was not enjoying the New Jedi Order stuff, most of
Mm.
it, right? And I think a big part of it was that it was a much smaller story and it was more self-contained.
I like that though. Like I'm intimidated by series that are too big because I always
Yeah.
feel like I'm I've always been a more visual person. Like
Mhm.
I've always like it's just easier for me to consume media when it's visual than as opposed to just like reading it. And and as an artist that's probably a terrible thing that I just don't have that imagination. And I always I've always kind of struggled in terms of like making sure I'm retaining everything I'm reading when I'm reading a novel, because later on it'll be like, oh, it was this guy, and I'm like, I have no idea who this is, I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's hard for me to keep everything, all the facts straight and all the characters and names and stuff like that. I'm bad with names on a good day. So like even with people that I actually meet, I'm really horrible with names.
yeah.
Despite making a conscientious effort to be better at it, I've always just been that way. So like it's always difficult for me. But like when it's something that's just like a self-contained trilogy, it's like, oh yeah, I'm much less intimidated to do that. And that's why I've never really gotten too far into New Jedi Order or anything that's like really long and ongoing. And that's kind of, I mean, I talked about a little bit that I'm always like, I'm kind of intimidated on starting the High Republic because there's just like so much of it already,
Yeah.
and I wasn't there on the ground floor, so it's just like I'd rather just not bother with it than play catch up with it. Um, Real quick, I have to do a quick aside. I have to tell you a very silly little anecdote from 2012. So Star Wars Celebration, a bunch of my friends were we went to the party that the Jedi Council forums from the Force.net was throwing at another
Yeah.
hotel. Yeah, I love the Force.net. Jedi Council forums is actually where I got my start as an artist, if you can believe that. I reached out to Katie Cook, who is another Star Wars artist, who posted fan art on there. She gave me a lot of really good advice, and then I started posting stuff in my fan art in Jedi Council forums. Then they reached out to me before Celebration 5, asked me to do their table banner, and then invited me to like their after party and paid for me in the after party and everything. And because I was there, I ended up meeting people from Lucasfilm, and I met other Star Wars artists. Like everything started because of Jedi Council forums for me, like my entire Star Wars career. So I absolutely love those guys. Anyway, fast forward to the following celebration, Celebration 6 in 2012. We went to that same party that they hosted a second time, and we were hanging out there, having a great time, drinking and meeting people and all that stuff. So the party's over. We are at a different hotel than the hotel that we're staying at. A bunch of us are all standing there, all of my friends, and some other guy who I had no idea who it was, but he was just standing there and he was waiting for a cab, and we got a really, really, really big cab. We were about 8 people, and this cab fit, I think, like 10. It was like this insanely sized van. And the guy was just like, "Oh, you're going to the Peabody, the same hotel. Do you mind if I go with you?" And we're really, we're 8 guys, so we're not really worried about some stranger riding with us. Yeah, of course, come on in. So I'm squished in the front with in like the the second row, but it was like, I think it was like 4 rows, including the driver's seat. And we're all talking and laughing and having a great time. All of a sudden, I hear from the back 4th row, "You're Troy Dennings?" Troy Dennings is the guy who randomly got in the cab with us to go back. And like everything got quiet, and then everyone turned around and started asking him questions. It was so funny. It's one of my favorite Star Wars Celebration memories. Man, Star Wars Celebration is awesome. There's always like little moments like that ridiculous moments like that happen. But yeah, so that's the time I met Troy Dennings. Was we shared a cab by accident.
There you go. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I got one more, right?
Yeah, go for it.
Do one more. Okay.
Please.
So I'm going to take inspiration from you talking about,
Oh,
seeing something in video game form that we haven't seen. I'm going to talk about something that we have seen, but that I would like to see remade, not remastered, because I think that the original game is a little bit lacking, but conceptually I love it. And that is Yoda Stories.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool.
So I love Yoda Stories. It was a PC game, top down, kind of isometric view. And you're Luke Skywalker, and Yoda has some missions for you, and it's just this really simple, like, go around, gather items, get a different thing, a key card to unlock this thing, to go in here, grab this item, go back over here, put that power converter into that thing. Now you can open that. Now you can go in here, and just completing quests for Yoda. But what I would love to see done with it is like take that original game and that concept, but like let's just plus it a little bit with some Zelda gameplay. Because it wasn't quite action, because it was mouse and keyboard, right? So it was, and we're talking mouse and keyboard back in like the days of like Doom. So we weren't really in like the fast action type of games on the PC at the time. So it was a little bit of a slower point and click, but I would love to see it. I would love any Star Wars game in like a Zelda style, right? Of like, and I'm talking about like classic, like Super NES Zelda. But I just think that
so your Yoda Stories would still be top down isometric card, but maybe like kind of like the Link's Awakening remake, where it's just like prettier.
I mean, like, I would love it if it was sprite based, or if it was
cool. Yeah.
Or if it was like animated, right? Like if it was like 2D characters sort of thing.
Yeah, cool.
Rather than doing it in 3D. But I know that 3D pipelines are a lot easier to build than either of those things that I just mentioned. I mean, like sprite art is real tough, but I mean, like I would love it to be a bit of a throwback, and for it to be like a non-canon, silly sort of deviation, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, none of this stuff happened. This isn't the
Yeah.
way that it went. But if we can have fun with it, where it's like you show up on Dagobah as Luke, and Yoda is like, I got some stuff for you to do, right? And it's just like, and like really play into it and play into the humor of Yoda, of it being like at a certain point he's like here's your quest. Like I would have like Karate Kid type references in it of like, at a certain point Luke is like, this is your grocery list. Like what am I doing? It's like, no, important Jedi training this is, right? Like I just like make it really really fun and silly. I and just have a little bit of fun with it, because I think that everything right now with Star Wars is very serious business. Are we building the
Right.
canon? Are we building, right? Um
Well, I
yeah.
think the stuff aimed at younger audiences is a lot like Lego Star Wars is the perfect example, I think,
Oh,
of
for
the
sure,
kind of
for sure.
spirit to take. That High Republic cartoon series that I can't think of, I feel like is very lighthearted too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Young
so now
Jedi Adventure. Yeah.
let me ask you, for Yoda Story, since it isn't canon, which I agree it shouldn't have to be. I don't think everything needs to be canon, and that's kind of like why I loved Star Wars Tales so much, where it's like even during a time where a lot of the things they were doing in that old EU were the creators really did try to make things fit. We had those different levels of canon where it was just like it doesn't have to. It doesn't matter. You don't need to take everything so seriously. I actually really miss that attitude where now everything is like, no, every single piece of media we're trying to fit into canon, and then inevitably they don't fit anyway. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
this is kind of silly. But now let me ask you, how hard do you want to lean into that lighthearted humor in terms of like Lego Star Wars is constantly breaking that fourth wall, right? Like, are you doing that? Is it that type of like meta humor, or is it just parody, but still kind of like, oh yeah, no, it kind of makes sense for this universe? Or is it still like, no, we're going full blown like Deadpool. We're talking to the camera. We're bringing in Indiana Jones references. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how far are you leaning into that for this?
Oh, all the way. Like
Okay.
like to
Okay,
the
cool.
nth degree, right? Like I said,
Mm.
like at a certain point Yoda is like, yeah, like Yoda's like, I need you to I need you to wax my car. And it's like, wait, you need me to what? You don't, but Yoda, you don't have a car. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. Like have like a literal joke in there of like, because Miyagi is
Yeah. Yeah.
influenced by Yoda, right? Like there's
Mm.
there's a direct correlation there. So it's like, yeah, have those meta jokes in there, and have fun with it, and write a game that's like fun to play, a Star Wars world that's like fun to play in for a
Mm.
change, that's like a sandbox. But the great thing about the Yoda Stories format is that it's already not very serious, right? Like
Yeah.
Yoda Stories
Yeah.
was not serious. um and you have a great opportunity for like character cameos, right? So you get to just have like Luke is like just going out into the galaxy, right? Because this is
Mm.
not canon. This is not necessarily during the Empire Strikes Back, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's not necessary. Like, so, hey Luke, you got to go to Tatooine, and when he goes to Tatooine, it's like, hey, there's Jabba, and he's got to go talk to Jabba, and now like Jabba says whatever he says, and like have fun with it. Of like Jabba's dialogue is all in Huttese, and then you talk to him, and he'll just keep saying the same thing to you over and over and over again. But then you got to go over and like find a
Find a
droid to come over
translator
and,
droid. Yeah.
right, like, and
Yeah.
translate it, and like, yeah, so you get to do that. But while you're there, it's like, now we get to play with things that we know about the universe that we didn't know back then, right? So we're in Mos Eisley, and we can see like Pelly is there as well, right? Dr. Mandible, right? And she's playing cards in the cantina with Dr. Mandible, and so you get to talk to her because you need a piece of something or whatever.
Mm.
um it's just, yeah, like there's all sorts of opportunities like that to then start bringing in things that like are from other eras of the game. um and like, yeah, I mean, like, I would, if I were writing this, if I were making this game, Lucasfilm, are you listening? because like we'll do it. We'll do it. I would have a moment where you have to like go talk to somebody in the cantina on Tatooine, and it's like this mysterious shadowy figure in a hood or whatever, and he's got like robot legs, like these terrible robot legs, and it's like it's definitely Darth Maul. Like it's 1,000% Darth Maul, and you're like, but isn't Darth Maul supposed to be dead at this point? It's like, yeah, and maybe he just didn't die. Like, and he's like covered in sand, and it's like, why are you covered in sand? And it's like, well, that's a long story, but let's just say I took a nap when I probably shouldn't have, like it's just like whatever. That's not a good line of a joke. We'll punch it up, but you get my idea, right? Is that it's like it turns out that Darth Maul once again didn't die. Once again,
Which
he
is
didn't
actually
die.
really funny. Like,
yeah,
it perfectly lends itself to the humor.
Yeah, it's like now Luke is talking to Darth Maul, and it's like you're like, is that? I don't know if that's Darth Maul. Whatever. This would be the punchline.
Voiced by Sam Witwer. So.
Yeah, voiced by Sam. This would be the punchline to that quest line, is that you would, because he'd be in the cantina in the corner, right? And you'd be talking to him. You finish your quest line. You give him whatever he's after, and then you leave the cantina. And when you leave the cantina and the door closes behind you, because I'm also envisioning this not with voice actors but with word bubbles or whatever, and the word bubble just comes out like over top of like the whole screen shakes, and it's just Kenobi. And I don't know why he's mad at Kenobi in this moment, but that's the quest, is that whatever he was after, it's like Obi-Wan clearly messed with it, and so he's just like Kenobi, and you're like, that was Darth Maul, 1,000% that was Darth Maul, right? Like that would be the joke. Like that's the sort of thing that you can do in that world that you can't do in Fallen Order, right? Where you have to like be it's a very serious Star Wars game, you guys. This is canon. Which I also love. I have no beef with that, but I just think that if we can play with Star Wars a little bit more, that people will start to realize they don't have to take it so seriously. You can take it seriously. You can make Andor, and you can make Acolyte, which looks like we're on the eve of the trailer. So we haven't, as of recording, even though this episode is released after the trailer will have come out, we haven't seen it yet. But like, yeah, it's like you can play in that sandbox, and you can play in that way with the toys in that way. But like, I also want to be able to play with the toys like the Lego, and I want to but I don't, it shouldn't just be reserved for Lego, which right now I feel like it kind of is. Like that's just, but that's what Lego Star Wars does. And it's like, yeah, but we were supposed to get Star Wars Detours, which is very much living in the space that I'm talking about, where it's like Obi-Wan is in that series, but like that doesn't make any sense, right? And it's like, well, but it doesn't need to make any sense. We're playing with the world in a way that it's like, it's inspired by these characters are the characters, but they're not the characters, right? And that, I mean, like I did my web comic for a minute there, for I don't know, it was like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, that I did Kenobi and Me, and I that was kind of always the place that I was playing with. That was like that it was this weird like any character from Star Wars could show up at any given time. And the one thing I don't think I ever did that I probably should have at some point was have both Obi-Wans in the same story, right? Like just to really try. I mean, story, they were single panel comics, usually just with like a caption or something. Not very good, but I did it anyways. It didn't stop me. But yeah, I that's the sense of humor that I would be like going for, and that I would want to do in a story like that, and if in a game like that with that sort of gameplay. But then like add in just a little bit, just a touch more of like the Zelda, because it kind of had a little bit of it. Like Yoda Stories had a little bit of action in it. Like you had your blaster at the beginning, and then you'd find your lightsaber, and you could use it. There were enemies, but they were kind of few and far between. It wasn't the focus of the game. And then there was an Indiana Jones one. There was Indiana Jones Desktop Adventures, I think is what the other one was called.
Yeah.
And it was, I never played that one, but it was the same
Team,
style.
Right? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. And Yoda Stories got ported to the Game Boy at some point, but it is such a rare cartridge. Oh my God. I've never actually seen one.
I think I have it. I'm pretty sure I have that.
Oh, for real? Dude.
I'm pretty sure that's how I played it. Because I remember I got it for PC, and My PC at the time couldn't handle Yoda stories. This is really old. So I ended up getting it. It might have even been, was it Game Boy or Game Boy Color?
It
I
might have been Game
feel
Boy Color.
I feel like I
It
have
yeah.
it somewhere.
Yeah, because I think it is in color.
Is it really rare? I didn't know that.
I mean, it's from my experience, it is rare, but yeah, I would really love a new Yoda Stories adventure. Do it up again. I wish that there was a way to play the game now, but I don't think there is.
Other than
Well, yeah, obviously.
uh,
Yeah, I have
not
searched
the
it.
legal ways.
Yeah, I've searched it on Google, and the third after the Wikipedia and then the Wikipedia entry, there is download Star Wars Yoda Stories Windows from My Abandonware. 1997, the year Star Wars Yoda Stories was released on Windows, made by LucasArts Entertainment. Yeah, man, and hey, Lucasfilm. While we're talking about things from the past that need to be brought back, which is sort of like that's kind of become the overall theme of these two episodes. Let's just bring back the LucasArts label, guys. Why did you get rid of it?
Miss them.
Why?
Miss them.
Why? It makes no sense. Hey, we're gonna buy your company for $4 billion. All we care about is the IP, not the company itself. When the company itself is actually the thing of value and not the IP. I mean, the IP is also worth $4 billion, but that, man, Lucasfilm was worth more. Or it's not Lucasfilm. LucasArts is worth more than how they treated it. It's said that is one of those Disney decisions that I will never be able to understand or defend. But, yeah. I don't know. Can you actually like download and play this? There's no way that this will actually work on my computer, will it?
Are you sure? Do you have a ROM? Is it a ROM? What is it?
I don't know. I don't know if I trust this website. I myabandonware.com is the site. Yeah. I don't understand how this even is it this 4 megabyte download? It looks like it is. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably that size, so.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah. Because like 4
right.
megabytes. 4 megabytes was a lot at that time in
Yeah.
1997. It's like, oh my god, how much is on this floppy disk? It's 10 megs. You'll never need more space than that. Yeah. A gigabyte. There's a joke in Community that I will always forever love. And it's oh my god, why can't I think of anybody's names today? I'm terrible. The actor that plays Goliath in Gargoyles. I know you won't know the answer to that.
I
but,
sure won't.
Keith David. Oh Jesus. His character.
Keith David's in that show?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and now I can't remember his character's name because I just spent all my brain power remembering the actor's
Did you just say
name.
Goliath? What was his name?
Goliath is the character from Gargoyles, but not Gargoyles.
From Community.
In Community.
Okay, I have no idea.
Oh my goodness, that's gonna kill me. But his character, he's like a computer programmer, right? But he's an old man. That's the joke, is that like all of his computer programming skills are from like the early 90s, late 80s. And there's a joke where they're like I basically is like they're hacking some computer or whatever, and he's talking about like megabytes, and it's like what are they up to now? Is the gigabyte, and then I think Abed is like terabyte, and he stops like dead cold, and he goes, "Those bastards, they did it." It's like just because he's from this other era, so it's like he's like this 80s movie moment of like, it's like the Planet of the Apes, like, you blew it. That's up awesome. Like that sort of a tone, and it's just no one else could pull it off. But
dude, Keith David is so funny, man. Like because he's like he's really good with like dramatic roles, but like I think because of that, he's really good at comedic. I don't know, man. He's just, every time he's got like a one-liner, he's just really funny.
Elroy Potashnik is his character in Community.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and he's in the final season. He's in season 6, and which is like the underrated one, because that's the one that was on Yahoo. after the show had been canceled, but then continued on Yahoo. Has Keith David ever been in Star Wars? He has to have voiced somebody in Star Wars at this point.
No, let's see.
Has he not? For
Quick
real?
to IMDb. Let's see. I'm
He
gonna
hasn't
open
voiced...
everything, and then we're gonna Control F Star Wars. Let's see.
I'm not seeing anything on the Google, which is just
weird. Star Wars, the hypothetical Star Wars holiday special. Is that a Lego Star Wars thing?
no. It sounds like a silly indie thing, probably.
BB-8 is on the cover.
Really?
Yeah.
The hypothetical.
It's from 2015. The hypothetical Star Wars holiday special. Before you see Star Wars Force Awakens, find out if BB-8 makes it home for the Droid Day. In the only holiday special based solely on rumor and conjecture about the upcoming film, featuring a cavalcade of stars and... Oh, okay, so he's probably just himself.
Yeah.
No, he's a character. Squee ZL45.
Okay. So he's like a droid then, I guess.
What the hell this is, but...
It's a Funny or Die skit. Funny or Die's hypothetical Star Wars holiday special.
Bummer. Okay. All right.
There we go. So it's not an official, I guess.
Right. Okay.
And the video is it does not exist anymore on the site. So
everything we need to know.
Yeah, man. Keith, hey, Lucasfilm, I know we've talked to you a lot in these 2 episodes, but I just like one last thing that I need to say to you guys.
Just add this to the bottom of the notes that you're obviously taking from us.
Keith David should be in a Star Wars. He really should. And like, if you guys are having trouble with that, then again, like I'm around. Like I actually could use the work right now. So like, I'll create a vehicle within the Star Wars universe specifically for the actor that is Keith David to come in and play. Cause like, I feel like that's wrong, right? With like all the animated stuff that we've gotten, the fact that he isn't somewhere in Star Wars. I don't know.
He could play Dash Rendar. He could play Starkiller. He could play a myriad of characters. I think.
Well, you know what? Hey, we did it. That's another hour. That was another hour. And you know what we've successfully done in these 2 episodes? We've successfully come up with a bunch of stuff that Lucasfilm and Disney are never going to do.
Oh, no,
they're never going to do. They're not going to get none of the stuff that we have said, except like Dash Rendar will eventually show up in something. But like,
I really hope you're right about that, man. Like,
eventually,
really want
eventually. But but we won't be happy about it when it happens. It'll be wrong. They'll do it. They're going to do it wrong. Because we've told them how to do it right, and so now they're going to be like, well, if we do it right, then we have to give those guys credit and we have to pay them. We don't want to do that, so we're going to do something different, and that different thing is wrong because what we said is right, which is unfortunately Chris Pratt. Again, if you didn't listen to the first half of this go back to that previous episode and listen. But Wyatt Russell is still a better choice, even though Chris Pratt is the right choice. If you don't understand the logic of that, I can't help you. that's just the way that it is. Let's just I'm gonna close this episode out, because this will be if that first one goes up, this will be like sometime in April. So like we are zeroing in on Star Wars Day, which means we're getting very close to Acolyte. Acolyte is in June. It's June 4th. And so when Acolyte hits, we're gonna have regular episodes of Force Perspectives to do, recaps in the same way that we did with Ahsoka, even though we weren't publishing them, and that we did with Mando and Book of Boba Fett and with Bad Batch on Rebel Cells and stuff like that. So now that we have a date, we kind of know where to aim that for. I think that's actually kind of perfect for me, because we're going to be doing something with the Knuckles series over on the ThunderQuack podcast feed. So not you and I have a different host for that. We'll be announcing that soon over on the ThunderQuack podcast. But so it's like I'll have like the Knuckles series, which is 6 episodes, but starts at the end of April. So that'll kind of like carry. I think it actually probably dovetails perfectly. I think it does. So maybe there's a week of overlap in there, but I don't think so. I think one will carry me right to the other. So look forward to that. to regular episodes of Force Perspectives, where we'll take a break from these like topic based ones, but we're trying out this new format. So there will be these two on this topic, and then like next month we'll record another one that'll be another two that'll get us through May, and then into June, and then we'll do an episode probably in the lead up to Acolyte of, you know, sort of what we're expecting and that sort of thing. There'll be a May the 4th episode in there as well, I'm sure, somewhere about all of the stuff that they're going to tell us, all of the projects that they're going to announce that then never happen, all of the movies. I don't know. Apparently Patty Jenkins is making Rogue Squadron again, so
yeah, sure.
we'll see. But that is it. That's it. That does it. Okay, guys, we're done. All right. We gave you your 2 episodes. Okay. Are you happy now? You better be happy. I hope you're happy. I'm sorry if I'm coming off a little bit aggressive, but
I'm happy.
Joe and I have been talking to each other for like 4 hours at this point. Mostly about Star Wars.
Yeah, I think we did.
It was 2.5, yeah,
and then 2 episodes of this.
It's like 5 hours. This was a full work day. This was a full work day for the 2 of us.
Yeah, really.
Just talking about this, but you know what? Like next week, we only have the one thing to do. So, and that one thing is talking about Frozen Empire, and I'm looking forward to it. That's it, guys. Okay, back off. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry. We really appreciate you, especially if you're one of our Patreon supporters. Just getting this a week early. If you're not, I didn't say anything about Patreon in the last episode because this is still kind of technically that episode, even though we're later. We broke it in 2. We recorded them at the same time, guys. I hope you understand that. We recorded it all at once for you, the audience, the listeners. So I hope you appreciate it. That's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Joe, do you have anything to say to these people before we go?
I want to hear if anyone has a better casting than Chris Pratt for Dash Rendar. That's my request to you folks, you beautiful people listening. If you've got a better, or any of the other characters that we brought up that we would like to see adapted. If you have some casting choices in mind, hit us with it. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, we have all sorts of social media, so go do that. And I'll respond to your tweets. Okay.
I'll see it like 3 months later because notifications in Discord and I just don't get along. But when I do see them, I will respond.
Yeah, that's it. And that is, hey, listen, that's better than a guarantee. It's a threat. Okay.
Yeah.
I will respond to your tweets. I'm there. I am on the Twitter, and I'll never call it the other thing. I won't. I refuse. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for putting up with our nonsense. And we'll be back soon with another episode of Force Perspectives. But we have no sign off for this show, you know? Like I got the Stay Frosty on ThunderQuack, and we got the looks like Bad Batch is blasting off again over on Rebel Cells. We have nothing for this show.
All right. I think that's gonna be my homework for the next time we record.
Yeah.
I'm gonna meditate on this.
Okay.
And come up with something.
Okay.
And it's not going to be funny. It's going to be so disappointing.
You know, that's its own kind of humor. Yeah.
An effort will be made, though.
Okay. All right, cool. Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. We will catch you on the next episode. Follow Force Perspectives on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ForcePOV. And join us on Discord at thunderquack.com/Discord. Support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/ThunderQuack to get early access to episodes, leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast service, or buy merch at store.thunderquack.com. Force Perspectives is a part of the ThunderQuack Podcast Network.